Welcome once again. I'm Charlie Greenberg, your host and moderator for Digital Business Demos. This is the series where we provide live business demos that focus on different digital transformation and platform strategies, and in particular demonstrate different components and products within Software AG's digital business platform. Today it's all about data quality, because no matter what's going on in an enterprise IT environment, good or bad data quality can make or break efficiencies and processes, undermine policies, and actually impact a company's bottom line. So we're going to talk about executing and enforcing real data governance. And in a bit, I'll be joined by my colleague, Przemysław Kulik, who's the Director of Product Management. But first, I'd like to point out that today's presentation is brought to you by Software AG, a 48-year-old organization, well known for customer-centric innovation. In fact, Software AG is ranked as a leader in many innovative and digital technology categories. We have more than 4,300 employees, $1 billion in annual revenue, and we can cite over 70% of the global 1,000 as customers, and those customers include well over 2 million developers at leading organizations who have adopted Software AG products to innovate solutions cross-industry, cross-private and public sectors, and who rely on Software AG to complete their journey as digital enterprises by using the end-to-end capabilities of the digital business platform. So I mentioned how poor data quality will impact the successful execution of business processes and cause considerable waste and revenue reduction. And with companies who have recognized a systemic data quality problem, they may be looking at studies that have produced analysis on what poor data quality means by company, by industry, such as these, by country even, certainly by company, when it comes to experiencing the erosive and insidious effects of bad data. But as a personal comment, I'm doing a presentation about quality, data quality. When I'm doing such a presentation, I may note my audience start to glaze over, particularly when I cite the ongoing study on the right saying that the U.S. economy is annually losing $3 trillion a year. That kind of statistic could be a little difficult to comprehend and certainly relate to. That said, I prefer this slide because this one everybody gets. And I've been in the room where not only do the folks nod their heads in agreement, they say, yes, that's us. The only thing is, we wish the problem was that conservative. Because we have hundreds or thousands of databases with scores of systems, so we really don't know how many versions we have of a given customer, or of Ron Smith in this example. And those are the type of customers that once a year will sponsor some of their IT or data management personnel to travel for 2 to 3 days to a data governance seminar or a conference or a summit, and they've already come to the realization, and this is why they're being sponsored to go to these places, that they need some type of methodical data governance strategy. They've already identified that the data is siloed, that it's created ad hoc with few enforced standards, and that their business is suffering. So they're coming to learn about different methodologies, who should be taking ownership, and how to work with business in order to get sponsorship. Now, as you know, at these conferences, there will be 45 to 60-minute presentations, and then all the attendees are invited to the exhibition hall for refreshments of whatever kind, and to meet the various data management tool providers, look at the solutions that might help them enforce or execute data governance. There will be vendors who want to discuss their modeling product while, of course, wanding the barcode on your badge, or ETL solution providers for creating data format uniformity, data profiling, matching, integration tools. You probably know the drill. But probably there's also a repository-based master data management or MDM solution. Now, the importance of MDM is not only does the solution help enforce and execute data governance requirements, but it does so comprehensively, not by only integrating and orchestrating the aforementioned data management tools, but by providing in any number of those tools out of the box or from within the MDM solution. So, we're here to discuss and demo Software AG's own MDM solution, WebMethods One Data. It's a multi-domain platform designed to manage, enrich, govern, and connect any enterprise MDM domain, whether it be customer or product master data, reference code sets, locations, or the real-world hierarchical relations and affiliations between all those different data items. So we provide, just to name a few points here, an agile and open data modeling strategy, flexible data acquisition and mapping, to talk more in the ETL world of things, a comprehensive governance framework including internal DQ and workflow, and the ability to leverage not only One Data's out-of-the-box enterprise connectivity, but work in hand with other digital business platform solutions such as ESB, BPMS, and a real adapter-rich library for other types of direct integration. Plus, the ability, remember, to interconnect domains can help move companies to that coveted 360-degree view of the master record. Given this kind of data management flexibility, One Data is able to very cost-effectively provide multiple MDM solutions within a single data management platform, and all solutions under a single license. And just to be clear, since there's nothing proprietary, restrictive, or closed about One Data's architecture, data management functions and capabilities can be interweaved or interconnected as needed to support use cases. Okay, so I'm going to change hats again here and tell you that we would hope that following today's presentation and demo that we have some questions from you for our Q&A session. So as usual, do not hesitate to use your WebEx Q&A box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen for any questions and any comments at any point in time. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce and hand the presentation over to my colleague, Przemek Kulik.
Thank you, Charlie. Let me present my screen, and we'll quickly get going with the presentation and the demo. So hopefully you can see it now. Before we jump into the demo, just a quick outline of what we'll be talking about and what I will be showing. So today we're talking data governance, or specifically enforcement of the data governance, and this can encompass many things. The data journey in solutions such as an MDM starts with data modeling, of course. I mean, we covered data modeling in another session that is available playback, so I won't be spending much time on data modeling today, but some of the configuration aspects of data models will become evident as we go through the demo. After your data models are ready, the next thing you usually do is to configure the data acquisition jobs. You list down your data sources, you map them to your destination in the MDM hub with all the governance aspects of it as needed, just to get the thing started in the MDM tool. Once the data has been acquired, what happens next usually is data quality. So what we're going to see is data being cleansed and verified. We'll see how particular data records are being linked to existing records to avoid duplication of data. We'll see how these linked records are being merged together, how the survivorship is being done to make sure that we have the best possible version of the record. We'll also see some mechanisms that One Data allows you to use for enriching your data or validating your data. So we'll see this in action as well. After all of this done, so after all these functions that allow you to increase the data quality of your data, after all this is done, you usually go into the usual data stewardship things, if you will. So we'll see approval workflows happening in the context of some hierarchy management, not to stay only within a single record, right? So after the data quality is done, you do the usual data stewardship tasks before the data gets deployed to any subscribing systems. And as you can see, the slide doesn't have any, well, timeline per se, and that's because these data governance configurations and bits and pieces, they can be used as needed, right? It's not a fixed process that guides you from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. You can actually pick and choose which aspects of the data governance you would need for this particular project, and then use them in any combination and in any order. So let's switch to the application right now, and let's see some of that in action. So for the demo today, I have prepared a simple structure with customer as the master data object in the center of it. Because we'll be doing data quality, I have the setup of customer consolidation and customer gold, where the consolidation object is the data entry object in the MDM, regardless of where the data is coming from. So it could be the data entry through the MDM application, or it could be the data entry using some acquisition tools to get the data from our databases, files, or whatever. And that's something that we'll actually start with. So I have my data model in place. As I was saying, I have kept the object empty so that we see how things are building up. And the first thing I'm going to do is to acquire data, the data acquisition work. So for this, I'll execute a pre-configured data load job. I'll show you how it's done. So first, we'll be loading from a database. So let's take a quick view at how the data looks in the database. It's a very simple, small table, customers table with 3 records, with customer names, some identifiers, some address information, and please pay attention to some of the things that are happening here already at the source. So as you can see, some data attributes are missing. So rating is missing for this customer, some address information is missing, right? We're going to see that fixed by the data governance process. Also, some data will not conform to the model as identified in MDM, and we'll see that fixed as well. So switching back to MDM, I'm going to execute this input job. That before we actually go to execute it, let me explain to you some of the configuration aspects of this. So every input job will look the same, only the configurations will differ. So here we actually talking about importing data from a database. So we'll have some database connectivity information here. Further on, we'll have the specification of the destination in the MDM hub. So in our case, it's a data object called customer consolidation. I can configure additional filters for loading the data here. I can configure a lot of attributes to specify how the data loading job will work. So what will be my processing mode? Am I only inserting data? Do I want to update existing entries or delete? What am I trying to achieve here? Do I want to enable data quality? How do I compare the data between each other? Do I want to bypass workload, data audit? Things like this, right? So that is all being configured in the data load. Before I click import, let me show you some other things. So the next screens will allow you to start mapping the data between the source and the destination. And for cases where you mapping from a source that you don't really trust much, or that doesn't provide you with some meaningful identifiers, you can assign during the load primary keys for only the mapping job. So that's something I did here. And lastly, because it's a simple thing, we have a mapping between the source attributes and the destination attributes. And again, some other things can happen here. We're actually keeping it simple, but I want to point your attention to one of the things that we might have some data elements relating to other objects in our MDM, and the source system may not be aware of this relation. So we can still map it and use the decoding functions and making sure that we actually map the country to the same country that we have in our MDM hub. So let's input this data to our system. And as I was saying, then one of the records was actually not conforming to the data model. And here we're getting information about is that record number 3 is causing trouble. And as partial commit of the data was enabled, everything that was successful has been submitted to the object, and the rest is waiting for us in the exception queue to sort out what's the issue. So we had 3 records in the database. So let's see how many loaded here. Okay, 2 are loaded. And before we figure out the one that was causing troubles in the exception queue, let's see what happened to these guys. So I'll quickly switch back to the database again. So this record number 2 actually was missing rating information, if you remember that. So if we go back to the application, you can see that this rating has been updated. It means that after loading the data, one data executed some command that retrieved the rating from some other system so that the data is not missing. I'll show it in a second, right? So that's one thing that actually happened. We retrieved the rating that was missing. Other things that have happened are about the address data, for example. So this was the address information from the source, and well, the postal code was missing. We see that was actually retrieved again, and the data was enriched. Some of the data was cleansed and standardized, right? We see that this thing was actually a street, a thoroughfare, right? And this thing, it is a city, it's a locality. So you can see not only this rating information has been cleansed, but also the address information. As far as the data quality goes in terms of matching and merging, not much has happened yet because, well, the data object was empty, so there was no match candidates for this incoming record, and so there was no match, hence we created a new gold entry. That's pretty much obvious. We have stored the external ID of this record for future reference, and we see that the source system for this one was ODS, operational data store. And yeah, so let's go and see what happened to this troubling record. So I'm in the data acquisition exception queue right now, and I will choose the job that we have executed and see what happens. So yeah, we have this record that we're trying to load with information what could have happened. Well, we know that the rating is actually too long. It should be only 3 digits, so let's correct it and import it again. And let's see if it got to the object. Yes, it's there. So all correct. So as you can see, data acquisition at work. It not only loads your data, it maps it to your data source, but it can correct any errors itself, as it happened with this missing rating. If it cannot correct the data automatically, it will ask a data steward to do so by sending things to data acquisition queue, things like this. So we've had it here. If we take a look at this record, all the other things that happened to the previous records happened here as well. So the rest data was corrected and enriched. The data quality output is pretty much the same. Again, the object was empty. We have stored the external ID for this one. So nothing fancy happened yet for data quality. So let's simulate something. So if we go back here and make a copy of this record, because I'm too lazy to type, and do some edits, right? So we'll try to simulate someone sending a duplicate record for this one. So I'll add dots here. I'll also update the duns. I will clean the status indicators from the data quality job so that you can see that something is actually happening. I can clean the identifier of the gold record as well. This time we're creating this record inside one data, so I'll specify that we're doing it here. I'll keep the address source, and I could delete these things, but they would be overwritten anyway, but let's do it. And I'll save the record. So this simulates creating a new entry in the consolidation object, and we can see that this new entry has been created. But when we take a look at the gold side of it, nothing was duplicated. So here is the data matching and deduplication at work. If we take a look at this record, we can see that the name has been updated, right? These dots are there. They were not in the original record. But the DUNS number, when I changed the two first digits to ones, was not updated. And then again, that again is data matching, data merging stewardship at work. What happened is the following. I have set up data stewardship rules to trust some systems more than the others. So when you're setting up your data quality projects, your data matching and data merging, you will find yourself in situations that, yes, I do have a duplicate, but between the gold record and the incoming record that seems to be the duplicate, there still can be differences in various attributes. So the data merging, the survivorship concept here allows us to configure what will happen when we merge these records. So when we are merging records for a particular object, customer here, we can configure a group of attributes for which we will specify different survivorship strategies. So there are multiple survivorship strategies. I have here for this demo used this system-based strategy, which pretty much specifies which source system we trust more for the data that it's sending. So I have configured two attribute groups, one called names and one called codes. And again, for the simplicity, my names group consists of only one attribute, name, that comes from this customer object. My codes attribute group consists of, well, only one, again, DUNS in this case. And the configuration works in a way that if it's a name attribute, I trust one data as the source system the most. It has the highest priority, and the ODS is 2. While for the DUNS attribute, I trust the ODS more than one data, right? So that's why we have seen that the name got updated because the name was coming from one data. We have entered the name with dots here in one data, but the DUNS was not updated because we already had DUNS number that was coming from ODS, and we specified survivorship in a way that we trust ODS more with DUNS than one data, right? So that's what happened. What else happened during this process where we actually created this copy, if we take a look at the data quality output, we can see some more information here. So this time we actually had some data already in the object, so the matching job had something to do. So we can see that the project that was executed was the customer matcher. It has a number of rules configured, and the exit criteria was configured to evaluate all rules. The rules that triggered the match was called match on address. It gave us a score of almost 85, which we considered a suspect match, but because the data quality rule was set up in a way to process, link to existing, if there's a single match, we actually linked it, right? So data quality job got executed. It compared the incoming record to the gold one. It found it it's a duplicate, so it linked it, and then it figured out whether to update name and whether to update DUNS based on the survivorship things. There's of course other things happening here that enrich and validate the record, right? But let's go back here and let's discuss some other things that have happened. So we have seen that when we loaded this data without rating for one of the records, it was enriched, it was checked. So OneData did a user exit outside of OneData to ask some external system, can you please give me a rating for this customer? Because we're missing this information, and the system got it. So there's one way of doing these things, invoking them automatically. We can also call them manually and have the data steward do this. So I'll select the record and say, okay, get the rating for me. Well, it says rating exists, so I'm not updating, right? It's good. We don't want to update something we have because this is the master data here, right? So if we do a quick edit of this guy and remove the rating, and we'll call it again, we should get some rating, right? So we got the rating information here. Similarly, we can call any other data enrichment, data validation routines outside OneData. So like we have this address information, so I can say, I mean, for all this address information, can you please map this for me so that I can see where it is on the map, and well, I can map this location, and yeah, the Google map in this case will show us where it is, right? So all these goodies that help data stewards to work with the data and make some meaningful insight. The built-in functions of OneData will also be available for this. So I could, for example, choose a record or multiple records and say, okay, I want to manually cleanse it. I mean, manually means pretty much invoking the built-in function, and I can see, okay, it has been cleansed. Do I like it or not? Since we have cleansed it already, I will cancel it. Same thing with manually matching. So it will do the same things that are happening automatically, but you can have them run manually, or you can even schedule them. And lastly, if you have a match, you can do like manual merge, which will show you the record as it looks like on the gold side, how it looks like on the consolidation side, the newly incoming record, and you will manually figure out the survivorship, so which attribute survives the other. So to show you the configuration side of it, I'll quickly go to the edit definition piece of OneData. So we talked a little about the basic object configuration when we were doing the data modeling webinar. So right now I'll quickly jump to the hook spot, which is a place where we define these user exits. So we call them hooks. So hooks are a way of invoking additional logic, additional routines inside or outside of OneData. And there's a couple of ways of working with them. So they can be invoked on pre-processing or post-processing. So before the data gets actually written to the repository, or right after the data gets written to the repository. And then there can be different hooks executed on different actions. So when data is inserted, updated, deleted, and so on. So you have seen the get rating in action. So when we do an insert, the get rating gets invoked on post-process. The ones that are executed manually are, we call them hook commands, and you can register them here. So you've seen the get rating and the matching and cleansing functions, and also the function to map and address. You've seen it. Okay. So there are some other things I want to show you while we're on it, but first we'll need some more data. So I'll execute another input. job. This time I'm going to load it from a file, and it's a simple text file with, again, some customer information with ID, name, right? We have mapped it before to this destination object on data. So select it and import it. In case of a file, I need to actually point to a file. And then, as you can see, the screen looks the same. The mapping will look very similar. So I quickly run imports. And what data does here, it reaches to the file, it reads the file, it tries to parse it and map the data to the destination. If something is not, again, not conforming to the data model or anything else, when data will try to re-trigger, like we see there was some rerun done here, but this time luckily nothing went to the exception key. So if we go back to our object, we'll see there's some more data here. So we have some custom information from Poland, some custom information from United States, and again the same things happened as before with the data that we loaded from the database. Now, I want to show you now some of the configuration that you can do on how people, on what data stewards can see it can do with the data. So for this, I have created a couple of users here in OneData, and we'll show you how with a simple configuration you can make them see different things both horizontally and vertically. So I'm in the administrator and architect role here, so I can see all the data that we have loaded. When I log out of the system and log in to the same place as Charlie, I'll go to this object that we have loaded data to, and it's pretty much the same, but you might notice that the Polish customers are missing. Well, they are not actually missing, they are there, but OneData has been configured in a way that Charlie works only with the customers from the United States. So even though the information is there, Charlie will not see it, all right? Similarly, if I log out and log in as Will, go to the same object, Will only sees the data from Poland. So again, the data from the United States is there, and the data from Poland is not. So here also you might notice that the rating column is missing. So not only Will can see data from Poland only, but he's also restricted from seeing the rating of the customer, right? And again, if just to use another user, if I log in as Aaron, his filters are set that he sees both customers from both United States and Poland, but again, he does not see the rating. While when I was logged in as Przemek, I could see all the customers and rating as well. So there's a very simple setting that allows you to achieve this. I'll show it in a second, but not only can this setting be used in making or telling OneData who can view what, but you can use this data in, you can use this configuration also in workflows, so that if a new customer would come from Poland, it would be routed to whoever has this row filter set to Poland. So Will in this case, and of course Aaron and me, because Przemek can see everything in this configuration, but not Charlie, because Charlie sees only United States. So let's go back and log in as Przemek. I'll show you the configuration part of it. Okay, so we're back in our object. So I can see everything here, United States, Poland. I can see the rating column, and it's not gone. And to show you how easy these things are configured and on a few levels, let's again go to the definition part of the object. And here I'll jump to the roles tab. And in this tab, we'll see all the roles that have any privileges assigned with regards to this object. So we have well, the read-only role with, of course, the read-only things for this object, but we have the architects and the data stewards. So on this level, we can set some privileges already. So we can say here what people in these roles can do with this object. Can they see an updated definition? What they can do with data? Can they manipulate the data? Can they only see this, right? Can they physically delete the data? Can they export or import the data to the system? When you want to go deeper down, you click on the role to specify column level attributes for this role. I mean, architects can see everything, but data stewards have the rating disabled. And the guys that we've seen, I mean, Aaron and Will, they're members of this data steward role. That's why they didn't see the rating column. You can also, on this level, set the role filter, which makes people see only the Polish customers or United States customers, but I actually have done it on user level here just to show a different configuration aspect. So we can do it here by setting a role filter for architects and specifying it here, but I'll show you this on the user level, how it was done. So I'll open Charlie's record, Charlie's profile, and I say set role filter. And here we have a list of all the objects Charlie has access to. And we can, let's choose the one that we've worked with. So we can say set role filter for this one. So for this object, when data shows us what are the possible role filters that we could set. So we can say role filters on the cleansing and merging status, file system, and sales rep data. But what we have done, we've set this on the country object to say that Charlie can see only United States, only United States customers, right? And we've configured it so that it works for all actions. That includes all the data manipulation actions on the data, as well as all workflow. But you could set different things for different actions. So you can set a role filter only for select and only for update. So that's very easy setup of this horizontal and vertical data privileges. The data privileges, they can be set on multiple levels. So we've seen on the column level with the role filter, on the object level when we were sitting in the object definition, right? We've seen it here. But we can also set it on folders level. So the objects are organized within folders, and again, if we're working with some data, we can allocate roles to folders, saying which roles can even see this folder, and this can go higher and higher. Where after folders higher up, we will have the concept of project in one data. Then we will have repositories, so you can really configure who can work where, in which repository, project, folder, object, and what they can do inside. Alrighty, so we've seen this data being loaded. A couple of things have been happening. The data was validated, enriched, it was cleansed, it was matched to an existing record, it was merged, right? So usually after all this happens, well, not usually, sometimes you might want to sync back to the systems. It depends on your architectural style of running MDM. So for this, again, you can, similarly to the import job, you can have an export job, and that's something I have configured already. So if I go to the job center, there will be some jobs configured. Some of them have been run already. So export customers to LDS, that is the job I'm interested in. So I can schedule it from here to run, I don't know, weekly, monthly, daily, after every 5 minutes, right? Or run once, or just for the sake of this demo, I'll run it now. So we'll run the job. Since there's not too many data to be moved, it should be completed pretty quickly. It's completed successfully. So when we switch to the database from which we loaded the data and refresh it, you can see that the data looks different right now. So the missing rating is here. The address information has been corrected, enriched, so nothing is missing in the source. So not only the data governance aspects are allowing you to fix the data in your MDM hub, but they can also help you fix the data in your source systems. While we're here, I want to point another thing that you actually don't see. So if you remember, we had much more data in this object. We had all sorts of data that was loaded from a file with the customers from US, and they did not get synced here. And that's because One Data knows that this data does not belong in this place because it was not loaded from this place, and the architects, the administrators of One Data set up One Data to only resynchronize the data that came from here. Let me quickly show you how it was set up. So if we do the export job, the one that we executed, so export customers to ODS. There's one step in it, it's very simple, right? And this job has been set up to sync customers. So if I edit, some things will be visible. There will be some more details that we could talk about. So edit job step. So first of all, we have chosen that we'll be exporting data from these objects. I chose customer and country. Then I chose the number of columns that I need. I didn't do any sorting, right? I didn't do any filtering. And at the end, I said I want a full update, not incremental update, to this object, and I want to map these data to these data. And only if the IDs match, the data will be resynchronized. Right? It's very simple setup. Okay. And in a similar way, I had a file export job configured. So far so good. The data has been loaded, has been cleansed, deduped, and all these things have happened. We have successfully even deployed it to the subscribing system. Now let's do something more. So it happens so that this customer object is a part of a hierarchy here. So we have a sales organization hierarchy that has been built on top of a number of objects, with region being the top one. So we have a couple of regions here, right? And EMEA, UK and Ireland, US West and US East. There's some offices in each of them. And the third level object in the hierarchy here will be, sales representatives under the offices, right? So there will be a number of different sales representatives, salespeople in these offices, right? And this goes on and on like this. So it's a simple hierarchy, leveled hierarchy with region, office, and sales representative. And these sales guys, they actually have some customers assigned, right? So you can see that some of the customers that we have loaded here, you would recognize some of the records here. Some of the customers have been already assigned or linked to this to the sales guys because the data was telling so. So we're on the gold side. So this is our clean set of data, but some people might be actually trying to insert things here if we don't restrict it. So if we create something like new customer, let me give some dummy data here with some address information. Right, okay. All right, I think that's enough, and we'll save it. Well, one data will tell us that you're on the gold side, right? So please make sure that you're not entering the same data again, because this is a place where we really want to have data not duplicated. So make sure that you're not doing this in this place. If you're not sure about your duplicates, please go to the consolidation object and enter this data over there. Usually, the data manipulation in gold object is restricted. I just wanted you to show in this demo how it would work. However, some of the data manipulations may still be allowed. So I have noticed that in the EMEA, there's no Warsaw office here. So let's go ahead and add one. Warsaw, Poland, and save it, right? Once we save it, one data tells me, okay, it was added successfully, but it seems that there was workflow configured here, and well, this entry has been configured, has been forwarded to the workflow pipeline, so people will need to approve it, so that you are aware. So let's go ahead and take a look, let's see how it looks right now in the workflow after this single entry being sent there. So I'll go to my workflow transactions screen, which lists all the data actions that I executed, and they resulted with workflow being created. So you can see that there is one for sales organization object that we created. It triggered the customer approval workflow that is set up in a way that on level 1, either Charlie, Will, or Aaron need to approve, and then on level 2, Przemek needs to approve, right? So very simple workflow, 2 levels, right? And I, as the originator of this change, you can see already that it is on level 1 right now. It's been assigned to these 3 guys. None of them has taken action yet, and I can see the data that went to workflow. So we created this Warsaw office entry, right? But because it's a part of a hierarchy, the related hierarchy data was also sent to workflow. So Warsaw office belongs to EMEA, so we see the EMEA record as well here. So let's continue with this operation, and let's see what happens. So going back to this sales organization, and under Warsaw, let's the sales rep. So we'll add an account exec, Jan Kowal, and save it. Right? We'll keep adding customers because you have seen it, but we have added the sales representative, and again, one data tells us that it was forwarded to the workflow pipeline. So let's see how it looks like. So there's only one entry. That's good, right? We have changed a hierarchy structure for something that was already in workflow, and it didn't create a separate entry because it would create a mess in workflow. It was actually added to an existing workflow entry, right? So we see that under the Warsaw that we created, there was this Kowal entry added. And we can continue like this. I could add a customer here. I could add another office somewhere else, or another sales rep under Warsaw. It would join the same workflow transaction. So now let's see how this workflow behaves when people actually start approving things. So I could do administrator's approval from here, but actually let's go ahead and log in as one of these guys and approve the data. So I will log out. I will log in as Aaron. And I will go to my workflow inbox. So yes, there is one entry that we've been expecting. So some information here again. So it is pending for my approval. It's right now it's assigned, right? It's I can see that it has been sent with regards to the sales organization object, and the workflow rule is this one. We have seen it before. I can see the audit log from this one. So far, not much happened. I mean, it was assigned to these three guys. On this time, none of them have taken any action. The requester was Przemek, right? And here's the data. So here's the data how it was entered, right? So I can review the data. I could reject it. I could request additional info, or I could delegate it to another user. Right? Or I could, if the data structure here was bigger, then I could maybe edit the data and save it for later if I wanted to continue work later. But for now, let's simply approve it, and it clears my inbox because there's the only thing that we had here. So I log out and log back in as Przemek. It seems I'm having some connection issues. Luckily, this was the last step, so we'll not miss much if I can't log in. Let's try again. All right, let's let it work, and I'll skip them. I'll come back to the presentation because workflow was the last piece in the demo anyway, because we've shown all of that. So coming back to my presentation. So we've seen data acquisition in action, right? We skipped data modeling, as I was saying, because we talked about it before. For data acquisition, what we've shown was importing the data from a remote database and a file. We've seen exception queue in action, right? That if something does not conform to the data model, it's being sent to the exception queue for someone to investigate it, correct it if possible, and then re-trigger it. Other options here include loading from an XML file. We can clone objects from remote databases, creating remote snapshots in OneData, or storing them as remote objects in the sense that OneData will not actually copy the data to its repository, but will refer to the data out there. So these options are available. Also, there's, of course, an API layer that allows you to deal with data ingestion using API calls. So you can use web services. You can make REST API calls to send data to OneData. And all the same rules apply as for the mappings that we have done with database in the file. Similarly, with JMS, you can be sending JMS messages to some specific queue or topic, and OneData will listen to this queue or topic and will read the data and send it to its repository. And also there's Java API that you can do the same thing on the data acquisition side. And all these would go through the exception queue, of course, if needed. The next thing we've seen was data quality. So here there's a lot of things happening. It all starts with a cleansing step where OneData takes the incoming data and attempts to verify it, enrich it, correct it, right? And compute some other things for internal use. After this is done, the matching step comes into place, and this takes a look at the incoming record, retrieves potential matching candidates from the goal object, and tries to see what are the difference and compute a matching score. that we have seen this matching score of 85 during the demo, almost 85, right? That's what it is. So, and here, based on configuration, multiple things can happen. So we could create a new gold entry if there's no duplicate. We can link to an existing gold entry if we found a duplicate. Or we can queue for manual matching. So we can always queue for manual matching, or we can queue for manual matching if the automatic engine is not sure. And that's based on your configuration, of course. When the link is being done and when the incoming record is being identified as a duplicate of something, we need to merge them, right? Whether do we allow the name to be overwritten? Do we allow the DUNS to be overwritten? That's the survivorship. That's the merging part. And again, we have the internal functions here for the system-based survivorship, for historical survivorship. There's always manual merging as well. And lastly, you can call an external routine to do the merging for you, right? So there are a lot of things happening in data quality here, but you can see once you configure it, it looks very easy. And the things we've seen about validation and enrichment with getting the rating information, computing the map link for locating something on the map, and even the manual cleansing and matching, right? This all is being achieved with the help of something we call hooks, is user exits from one data. And this could be internal routines or external routines. Depending on what tools you have at hand, you can code them in Java, you can code them in PLSQL, or you can call any service on Web Methods Integration Server if you happen to have one. Next, what we've seen was workflow, and well, it does pretty much everything what you would expect from data approval workflow. There could be multiple levels with expecting different people approve on different levels. There are multiple column assignments, workflow escalations, and things like that. Optionally, you could even call out to an external workflow solution if you happen to have one, or if this data approval process, this master data approval process, is a part of a bigger process that you need to route through an entire organization for some enrichment. You can use external workflow, for example, to exit from one data on level 2, route the entire data throughout your organization, and come back to one data in level 3. And you can continue this dialogue going back and forth between one data and external workflow until you're happy with the shape of the data, and you can approve it or reject it in one data. And lastly, what we have seen was the deployment. Here, again, we did a database update. So this is one of the push methods from one data. You create an export job, and you say, okay, I'm going to resynchronize to the database, or simply send it to some other database. You could create flat files or XML files, and they can be files for a single object or multiple objects for entire hierarchy. This could be like full update files, just like with the case of database, or this could be incremental files, right? There's all these settings and configurations that are available for each of these type of deployments. And again, there's a pool way of working with one data, so you can use web services to retrieve data, or the JMS and Java API to retrieve data. So all these bits and pieces, they can be used. They constitute the enforcing factors for data governance, if you will. And if you remember Charlie's circle with data governance, where here it is, only prettier. Sorry, Charlie. And this is to say that with data governance, it always starts with data modeling. Once you have your data models in place, you configure your data acquisition to load the data from the sources that you want to integrate. You set up your data quality, your validations, your enrichments. You work with your hierarchies. You set up your approval workflows. And when you're ready, you deploy. And as I said, you can mix and match, pick and choose them. All those capabilities are available within an MDM solution as such. With that, I hand it back to Charlie. Thank you.
Thank you, Przemek, and I'll just ignore that pretty remark. We're running very close. Actually, we've gone past the hour, so I just want to say a few words about this, and then we'll do a couple of questions given the time frame. But before we move to Q&A, we invite you to join us at an upcoming software innovation tour. There's one in Chicago, there's one in D.C. These are events providing a fertile ground for what we call Ideas Network. And, for example, in the past, we've had Steve Wozniak presenting and interacting with attendees. So please take note of those locations and dates, and feel free to reach out to us for more information. And now, as we move to our traditional final slide, I have two selected questions for Przemek, given the time frame, but I hope you like them, Przemek. Here's the first one. Now, on the DQ side of things, do we support both probabilistic and deterministic matching?
Well, yes, and more. There's several similarity algorithms, as we call them, available. There are deterministic ones, probabilistic ones, but also heuristic and mixtures, right? Because there are several of them. Some of them are good for matching like names and pretty much like strings of letters. Others are better with numbers, and some others are better with something else, right? Sometimes it's a trial and error thing to know which ones to use where. And we, of course, provide some hints in our documentation, but when in doubt, we ship something we call one data similarity, which is like the go-to algorithm that if you don't know what to use this one, and then you'll figure out with your data. So multiple algorithms, multiple types of algorithms available.
In terms of data stewards, do they always have to be in the one data system, the MDM system, to do their jobs?
No, they don't. So when I was talking about workflow, right? So that's one of the examples. You can have one data kick off an external workflow that is really external to one data, and one data will send the data that sits in the workflow to this external thing, and whoever is an approval or works in this external workflow, they do not have to be one data users to do something with the master data, actually. So no, they don't have to be one data users.
Great. Przemek, thanks very much for the presentation and the really comprehensive demo. That's much appreciated. Please note, have our email addresses at the bottom of the screen if a question occurs to you, or if you need to reach out for any information whatsoever on this particular topic. And also note our calendar. We're talking about IoT, DevOps, artificial intelligence. It's all coming up as we move into late summer. So please join us as soon as you can, or as soon as the opportunity avails itself, perhaps on August 16th for IoT. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day.